The 2025 NFL Draft is officially over, so we are here to review all UDFA signings as of the morning after the draft. Let's get right into this. Of course, if you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. We were going to be continuing right into 2026, but this is going to be team by team. PFF simulator, or not simulator, their tracker is what we are going to be using. It is in alphabetical order, so feel free to go and skip to your team, but enjoy it. Let's have a good time. If there is anything that they did not report, please by all means shout it out. But let's start this off by talking about the Arizona Cardinals. Bryson Green from Wisconsin, honestly, never heard of him. There wasn't a lot of buzz about him in pre-draft. Same thing with Oscar Cardenas as well. I really do like UTSA quite a bit, though. He never popped off to me. Josh Fryer, of course, the right tackle from the Ohio State University. You have the Ohio State offensive line coach. It kind of makes sense right there. But again, doesn't really move me. And Elijah Simmons actually is a really fun defensive interior that actually could end up being able to stick to a practice squad. So out of all those guys, I do think Josh Fryer and Elijah Simmons ends up being able to stay. But we'll see. Maybe eventually we'll look at some mini camp invites if there is going to be any. But at the moment, there is not. Not really a huge fan of the Cardinals UDFA group off the bat. The Atlanta Falcons are next, and they start out with a banger. My boy Nate Carter, a top 100 player on my big board. This guy was fantastic. I knew he wouldn't get drafted. I didn't put him on my top 100 because I thought that he will go in the top 100. Not a chance. I knew this guy was going to be solidified as a UDFA, but he is somebody who had got over 100 yards rushing versus Michigan, and he is a fantastic running back, explosive. He's a great athlete, and he has really, really good vision as well. That is an excellent signing. On top of that, you get Nick Nash, who he slipped and fell out of the draft because he's not super impressive versus FBS competition, which, I mean, you'd step up to the NFL, probably going to be a little bit less, but he's also over 25 years old, will be turning 26 as a rookie. Then you got Quincy Skinner Jr., wide receiver at Vanderbilt, someone who I personally did not get to and was not on my radar. Josh Simon's a really fun tight end out of South Carolina. He's a good receiving guy. Honestly, good understudy to Kyle Pitts, and he'll probably be a practice squad body. But Joshua Gray is next, the interior offensive lineman from Georgia Tech. Or no, I was about to say Georgia State. I combined the next two from Oregon State. He was the lowest graded player I've ever graded as a left tackle. And then he moved to guard. He's an athletic kid. Don't really think too much of him, but at the same time, for UDFA, it's worth taking the shot. He's a really good athlete. Honestly, in my opinion, I thought he should have transferred to fullback or tight end. Then you got Jordan Williams, the tackle out of Georgia Tech. Did not pop off to me when I watched Georgia Tech, so I don't really feel too confident about that. Simeon Barrow actually had some pretty good games there for the U defensive interior. Again, for the Falcons, you might as well take shots where you can. Simeon Barrow did have some good statistics overall. Nick Kubitz, North Dakota State linebacker, honestly did not get to his tape, but I love supporting FCS schools when I can now. Ever since Zabel came around, I've always been trying to find a little bit more of a way to root for the smaller school. Kobe Bryant, then, cornerback out of Kansas. Amazing pickup. He was someone who was a top 150 player for me. Even after the testing and everything, he was a really solid, very physical defensive back. Can end up hitting the 53 if he ends up doing it right. Then you got Dante Manning, corner out of Oregon. Didn't really pop off to me when I ended up watching Jabbar Muhammad, but we'll see. Malik Vernon, really talented safety, just ended up, I believe, slipping due to medicals. So really, really solid UDFA class there for the Falcons. I don't know what y'all are doing. Oh, there are minicamp invites as well. So we'll see. Do I know any of these players? Seven McGee, no. Kevin Hester Jr., I know it's not, I don't believe has any relationship to the Devin Hester, but regardless, I don't know enough about Kevin Hester. Marlon Taylor, I've heard some good stuff about him, but I don't really think he's going to be much in the NFL. And then Christian Story, another one where I'm not necessarily too informed upon. The Baltimore Ravens are next. Let's look at their UDFA class. It's a very large group. So Son To, Monmouth running back. I love Monmouth. And the thing is, there was a different Monmouth running back. I believe it was in last year's running back class that I liked a lot more, but love throwing shots at that school for sure. Jamal Banks did not pop off to me out of Nebraska. That being said, I did not study him in all 22. Xavier Guillory, I love Arizona State wide receivers. He actually had some good reps in there when Jordan Tyson went down. So be intrigued to see if he can end up sticking to a practice squad. Sam Pitts, heard a lot about this kid, the Minnesota Duluth kid. I do have a buddy who works at Minnesota Duluth, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember if he's still working there. But good to take a shot on a tight end because he actually, I believe, is at the Shrine Bowl. Then Jared Christian Lichten. I know Lichtenhon. I know who this kid is, but didn't really pop off to me. So far, I haven't really seen anybody that I would keep on a 53 or a practice squad. Ozzie Hutchinson, same story, and same thing with Reed Holsky, like guys who I personally haven't had enough contact with, and also didn't really see as, when I ended up doing my stock reports, wasn't anything that ever popped up. Then we got Jay Jones, defensive interior out of Auburn. Auburn has some very sneakily talented defensive linemen and defensive players this year. I would like to be taking some shots over there. DeJuan Black, edge rusher out of Temple, pretty local guy. Didn't see anything with him either. But then Chandler Martin was actually a very, very good linebacker out of Memphis. Maybe he fell because of injury. Your linebacker UDFA with Jay Higgins as well. I'll combine both these guys. They just didn't necessarily like do enough to get themselves drafted, which is weird to me because I think both of these guys were late day 3. But I mean, both of these guys should be sticking to practice squads. Chandler Martin was fun to see at the Frisco Bowl. Jay Higgins speaks for himself, but I will say not remotely a good enough athlete, very undersized for Higgins. Then cornerback Marquise Robinson out of Arkansas. I love taking shots at Arkansas defensive backs. Arkansas knows how to develop players. Maybe I did not study him, but maybe he's somebody who could end up being a surprise. Then you got Devson Igbinosun, defensive back out of Rutgers. He was somebody who had some of the worst games and the best games this year. Brother, if I'm not mistaken, of Davison Igbinosun on Ohio State. Don't know why he ended up coming out. And then Keandre Jackson, Illinois State safety. That's actually a good pickup as well. Didn't get to study his tape in all 22, but he was somebody who ended up popping off quite a few times. For the minicamp invites, Keatron Jackson, wrong wide receiver from Baylor. I love Monterey Baldwin. But Isaac Bunyan, guard out of Maryland, local guy, not necessarily moving me. Thomas Perry out of Middlebury, interior offensive lineman, not going to move me either. Like, I'm trying to see, I'm going to not go through every single one of these at this point just because I'm like looking at it and this is going to be like a 2-hour video if that's going to be the case. And for both of our times, let's not do that. I don't see anything of note from the minicamp invites. The Bills, let's talk about your minicamp or UDFA players first. Hey, we got a minicamp invite that was on this show, so I would love to talk about that there. But looking through your signings from the wide receiver core, do not see anything that is really necessarily popping off. I know my boy Willis is a Virginia Tech fan. Maybe he can end up mentioning it there. Tight end wise, Latu is someone who never popped off to me, but Jacob Bear, the center out of Arkansas State, he's a very underrated player. Popped off to me at the Senior Bowl, and he had some pretty good reps there. I believe it was at the Senior Bowl, the Shrine. One of the All-Star Bowls, I ended up noting Jacob Bear as somebody that was someone who I would be looking for as a PFA. But on top of that, outside of that, Daryl Porter Jr. is not a bad corner out of Miami, Florida. Didn't really see anything I'd want to mention out of the defensive interior group or the edge group for that matter. But Daryl Porter Jr. is a good guy to take a pot shot on, but you have so many defensive backs you drafted, it's going to be hard to see him really stick there. And then Keontae Jenkins, did not really see much from him. However, Virginia Tech had a very talented secondary, so it's kind of easy to get lost in the mix. But the minicamp invites, the guys who I want to mention, or the guy I want to mention, I should say, Taylor Elgersma. He was a really good kid, ended up coming on the show. Pleasure to talk to, very happy for him. So I got to send him a text and tell him congratulations on that. I do think he can end up being able to stick to a practice squad and end up trying to make the most out of himself, because for being so new to football, or to the American sport of football, he actually was a very, very solid player at the Senior Bowl. Carolina Panthers are up here next. Let's talk about their UDFAs. Ethan Garbers had quite a solid career there at, I believe, Cal and UCLA. Just probably not going to stick to 53 or a practice squad, but we're taking the shot on experience. I'm not really familiar with that running back right there, K'Ron Lynch-Adams. Don't know who that is. But Jacoby George is really, really fun. He dominated at the Shrine Bowl. He's hard to guard, and you combine that with Kobe Hudson, probably the best wide receiver core that we studied so far from the UDFAs by a noticeable margin. Both those guys should be on 53s or practice squads. Then you got Luke Kandra, top 100 player for me, man. What a steal. I don't know why he fell. Maybe there's some medicals. It's the only reason I could see that happening. But I know quite a few people will have him like as a fringe day 2 player, and he ends up falling out of the draft, which is very, very confusing. He is an excellent guard, high anchor, high power, like really, really good run blocker. Very surprised he fell, but he's somebody who I think needs to make a 53. I don't know the tackle at Oklahoma. Then you're looking at that linebacking core. Nothing of note, in my opinion. I do love South Carolina defensive players, so it's probably a school where I tried to poach from in UDFA as well. Corey Thornton, the cornerback out of Louisville, he's honestly a very solid UDFA pickup. I wish y'all were the ones who ended up getting Quincy Riley. Did not end up being that. Actually ended up staying in division though with the New Orleans Saints. But Corey Thornton actually had some poppy reps there. So honestly, somebody who could end up being a good practice squad body. But defensive back core, didn't see anything there of note. And then kickers, I'm not very good on special teams, so I'm not going to really comment on kickers or punters. Then you got the Chicago Bears. Let's talk about their UDFA and their mini camp signings, or signings and then mini camp invites, I should say. So looking through the wide receivers, I don't see anything. Oh, JP Richardson's really fun. He's a solid receiver out of TCU, and I hate TCU. TCU had a good receiving core. JP Richardson was really fun. You combine that obviously with Besh and then Savion Williams, but for next year, I'm a huge fan of Eric McAllister. He was the one who popped off more than Besh to me when I watched in person. Obviously, you know what I think of Besh now when I got to focus on him. But looking at the edge core, I don't see anything that really blows my socks off. Love Cal and Kansas for how their defenses played this year, though. So worth taking the pot shot. Power Eccles is a solid linebacker from North Carolina. That's a very good pickup for the Bears. Then you got Major Burns, who's an experienced safety out of LSU. Tyshim Johnson as well. Like, there's some gems in that class. And then, of course, special teamers. You look at the mini camp invites, nothing of note, if I'm just going to be real. So it's okay. The Bears it's funny. The Bears with their UDFA is very similar to how they drafted some guys who I really like. And then a lot of it that makes me scratch my head a little bit compared to some of the others. Then you got the Bengals here. They had a pretty underwhelming draft. Let's see how they handled the UDFA. So start out with Peyton Thorne. I do not think this guy, unfortunately, is anything but bound for maybe a practice squad in the UFL. I just did not like how he played, and he had his moments, but he cracks under pressure. That's the only problem. But the running back out of Arizona, Quali Conley, actually did a pretty solid job this year. I like that pickup right there. The wide receiver core is something that I just don't really think you're going to be keeping any of these guys. Then you got Cole Taylor, tight end out of West Virginia. He was okay. I didn't really see anything pop from him. I got to watch West Virginia in person. I got to watch him several times outside of that as well. Did not see Cole Taylor pop off. Seth McLaughlin, center out of Ohio State, was someone that a lot of people thought was an early day 3 player. Not for me. I thought he was a UDFA, but at the same time, my friend ended up dating him when he was at Alabama, so it's kind of fun. But regardless, I mean, worth taking the shot. Might as well. Caleb Etienne was a really solid signing, though. He's an athletic freak. Had some really good games there at BYU. He was very solid for him. Then Eric Gregory is a solid defensive interior. You add on to that Howard Cross going back with Al Golden. A huge fan of that right there as well. And don't see anything else worth noting. But, I mean, getting Caleb Etienne is probably like one of the best things y'all did. Like, I think that's like really, really solid pickup right there. And then Howard Cross as well, who I thought should have been a late day 3 player. Then you got the Cleveland Browns here, and they start out with Amani Marshall of App State. App State's been sneakily competitive, so I don't mind that one bit. But outside of that, don't see anything in the wide receiver. Like, I don't know the wide receiver, nor the tight end for that matter. Another Appalachian State player, which is kind of funny. But don't know the other guard from Cincinnati. He did not pop off to me. I did not see the North Carolina A&T tackle either. So looking at the edge guy, I did not see anything from him from Tulane. Dom Jones. Ooh, is Dom Jones known as the Demon? I think he is. He's like the worst. He has a .01 RAS score. There's no way. That's funny as hell. Like, he's nicknamed the Demon because he's like the worst or second to worst player in history of RAS. So funny. But anyways, moving on. He's like a 5'8" player who had like a 28 or 26 inch vertical. It's funny as hell. I honestly don't see a single UDFA signing or minicamp invite. John Pius, actually, funnily enough, one of your minicamp invites is the one that I like the most. But I also like the idea of bringing on Cameron Johnson, the guard out of Missouri, because Missouri had a very tough offensive line. So, I'm going to be honest, not a fan of your UDFA class. Just going to put that out there. Dallas Cowboys are next, and they end up going and getting Josh Kelly, who he's a reliable receiver there. I think he's going to be a good practice squad body. He was not a very translatable athlete to the NFL, but he put up a lot of numbers in college. Trayshawn Holden's a very similar mark for that. Not necessarily someone who I have a lot of faith in, but someone who I think could end up actually doing some good things on a practice squad. Then Ricardo Fairweather out of Auburn, tight end. Really solid tight end. For a UDFA value, I think that you guys did a good job on that one. Continuing on, Elijah Clark, defensive back out of Syracuse. You actually got both of them, and Justin Barron as well. It's a good school to throw pot shots at. I'm fine with that right there. But outside of that, don't see anybody else worth noting. Denver Broncos are next. And I don't know anybody out of your receiving core that you just brought on. Unfortunately, smaller schools, to be fair, hard to get all 22. And also, I have another job. Kind of hard to get the time to watch guys like Jerwan Newton. Actually, Toledo's a school that I probably would watch before NC Central. But you got on the interior offensive line group, don't know the Oklahoma State kid, but Clay Webb, the reason he fell is because of some really bad hooligan shit that he did. You guys can look it up yourself. It's out there on the internet. But basically, imagine just fraternity hazing, but pretty damn bad. And he's the guy who tricked a kid into doing something that not very gentlemanly. I'll put it that way. Marcus Cox is an experienced tackle. Not a bad UDFA sign there. And then I love Xavier Truss. He's someone who I think should be a guard. He's 6'7", but, at the same time, he really worked well as a guard. I think he would be a draftable guard and a UDFA tackle. So 6'7", 320, really good athlete. Big fan of that one. Then you got Johnny Walker, who was a stud during the Shrine Bowl. Like, really, really good UDFA pickup. I do not know the defensive interior, hence why I skipped over him. I always say I love Kansas, as well as there's a couple other schools I like taking pot shots at. Kansas and Utah for linebackers. Not a bad school to try to, especially Utah, not a bad school to throw some darts at. And then Kendall Bowler, Florida A&M corner, actually really solid. He ended up popping off quite a bit. So maybe that's someone who could stick to the practice squad because your main roster has way too many good corners. And then nobody of note from your minicamp invites. Detroit Lions are next. And I don't know the running back, but you look at the wide receivers, you end up getting one of the two, which I know, and that's Jackson Meeks. He's big, he's physical, he has a really good release package. He was good at the Shrine Bowl. I'm a big fan of that. Caden Pricecorn, he's a UDFA tight end, but he had some good experience in the SEC, and he got quite a few reps there. You continue down the list, and I'm not seeing anybody worth noting, so we'll continue moving on from there. I do like going after Mason Miller, though, the tackle out of North Dakota State. Then we got the Green Bay Packers here, and let's talk about their UDFA class. Running back-wise, I don't see anything that I necessarily looked at and was like, wow. Wide receiver, Julian Fleming, I believe is my lowest graded wide receiver. I do not think he makes the roster or the practice squad. Tyler Cooper, the guard out of Minnesota, actually is a very good pickup there. Could end up sticking to a practice squad. Nazir Stackhouse is an absolute savage, but I don't think he's a very good football player. He's been on a couple of videos before where, he just ended up going up to an open mic, and yeah, it was kind of funny to see that, but he was probably the worst defender I've studied from Georgia, but still worth taking a shot on him nonetheless. Jamon Dumas Johnson's a great UDFA signing. He has a solid build. He went from Georgia to Kentucky, so you still get that Georgia background, but he's somebody who is actually super duper reliable. So I like that signing quite a bit. Then continuing down the list, don't see anything else worth noting except for Jonathan Baldwin, actually defensive back out of UNLV. Really, there's another. Okay, so they also invited Taylor to their mini camp, so good to note there. But Jonathan Baldwin, he ended up being teammates with Jalen Catalon, which maybe we'll talk about in this process. But UNLV had some solid play on their defense. The Houston Texans are next. Short list here, but Daniel Jackson is such a good receiver. I could see him making the 53. Hey, you guys actually had a pretty good class. Eli Cox is a UDFA center. I don't know if he makes it, especially with the amount of free agent signings that you guys had. Don't know the linebacker, but Elijah Huzzy is such a good slot to bring in. I mean, bringing in Huzzy and Jalen Smith, who's flexible. And then, of course, you have Pittry there and the other defensive backs that could probably work into the slot. Really, really good. And then, of course, a special teamer that I am not aware of. Then you got the Indianapolis Colts. Let's talk about them. Ulysses Bentley, pony up. he just tested out poorly. He should have stayed at SMU. I don't know why he left. He was on pace to do really, really well for the NFL if he stayed here. He got greedy and ended up paying the price. I don't think he ends up sticking to a 53, but he might be a good practice squad buddy. Then looking at the wide receiver core, there is nobody who I honestly have much knowledge of from there. I have heard of Emporia State's wide receiver, but it's just more so hearing the name or hearing the name of the school more than the actual player. Looking at the rest of your signings, I'm just going to be completely honest. Zero clue. I studied over 500 players this year. Nothing of like this really stands out. Actually, Solomon DeShields, solid linebacker. Texas A&M had some really solid linebackers. So I'll point that one out. But a lot of these guys that it's a lot of people who are very, very deep in terms of you have to go and be Dane Brugler level to really understand the value of them, which hopefully I could do one day. But with studying 500 players, I feel pretty happy with the amount of knowledge that we got. But Jaguars start out getting Seth Hennigan, quarterback out of Memphis. He was my lowest graded quarterback out of the quarterbacks that I did grade. He's a good quarterback, though. I mean, I just think he's a UDFA / I think he should go to UFL. Kid has enough talent to be able to play football at a semi-professional level. I just don't think it's at the highest level. JaQuindon Jackson's a solid running back as well at Arkansas. So I don't know if it actually means anything, but he actually might do something there. Looking at the wide receivers that you guys brought on, JJ Jones is not too shabby. He was someone who I had as a practice squad guy. So good pickup right there. Tight end Patrick Herbert, gotta love it. I'm surprised he did not end up going to the Chargers, but it is what it is. Continuing down the list, I'm not seeing anything until our friend of the show, BJ Green. I'm sure that he's going to love it because I think he was out in Florida training too. But big, physical, good guy, very coachable as well. I was talking with him a while ago about different aspects of his game that I thought he can improve. So hopefully he ends up sticking to a practice squad, if not 53. Ethan Downs ended up, Strigo as well, like good edge group for the Jaguars and UDFA. Danny Strigo, he actually had some good metrics, so I like that that signing. Ethan Downs tested out quite well as well, the edge rusher out of Oklahoma. Then you look at the cornerback room, and don't know enough about 2 out of the 3, but Jabbar Muhammad was a top 100 player for me. I think that's a fantastic signing, and it works well with Jerry and Jones. It's a very similar identity there. I think you guys did a fantastic job after some people questioned your move on day one based on the quantity of picks. I think you guys made the most of it. Then you look at the Chiefs here. Running backs don't have anything of note, honestly, based on what I saw with Brashard Smith. I don't think you need to worry about it either. Then you get Elijah Badger. What a steal. I love it. Really, really good pickup there. Should have been a 5th or 6th round pick. Then, of course, I don't know the other wide receiver. Jake Brenningstool was a top 150 player for me. He has smaller hands, but to me, he's just so damn reliable. I love him to death. The Senior Bowl quarterbacks targeted this guy all the time. He was like a favorite on his team. So super happy with that. Do not know enough about Dalton Cooper except for the fact that he's an interesting prospect. I don't think he's going to do very much on a practice squad. Then I don't know the defensive interior kid, even though I love Penn State, did not see anything from Keziah Izzard. Brandon George tested out through the roof, but I thought his play was extremely underwhelming. That being said, for a UDFA body, I like the potential there. You look at the cornerbacks and did not see anything from either of those guys. And then special teamer right there. Minicamp invites, anything of note? How about no? The Las Vegas Raiders, small group, but Haj Malik Williams, I love it. Right down the road. He ended up having to come in mid-season after a whole entire debacle over NIL with the other QB, and he ended up doing a very solid job. I think that, Haj Malik Williams is a super fun player. He's a really good runner as well. It looks like with Mellett, with Cam Miller, it fits right in line with all those that are going to be kind of more gadget players that maybe could be quarterbacks if they wanted to be, except for Tommy Mellett is looked at as a wide receiver. But continuing on, you got Parker Clements, Virginia Tech tackle. He's the right tackle. Xavier Chaplin was the left. Didn't see much from him. I love Baylor defensive players. Tevin Ma'ai was not one of them that popped off to me, but maybe I just wasn't looking hard enough. Jaw Joyner's a solid edge rusher. He popped off at the Senior Bowl doing a couple of good reps. I like that bring on right there. And then Matt Jones out of Baylor. He was super duper reliable, and we will be dropping during this summer an interview I had with Matt Jones's teammate and someone who I really, really like in Keaton Thomas. So, Matt Jones was spoken of very highly, very high character guy. Easily could see him sticking to the practice squad. And with how bad your linebacking core is, not a bad idea to try to bring him on 53. But looking at the corners, again, the one that I know enough about is Mello Dotson, who I ended up getting to see versus Matt Jones. Technically, they weren't facing each other, but got to see the Kansas Baylor game this year. Mello Dotson was underwhelming in that game, but he was underwhelming given the fact that I thought he was a second-round pick. So being UDFA, that's incredible value, and another guy who should stick to your 53. I do not know enough about the safety from Air Force. At number, still in mock draft mode. Los Angeles Chargers, let's talk about their UDFA group. There's no way DJU got freaking signed. That's nuts. This guy has no reason to be signed. That's funny as hell. Like, maybe they're trying to get him from 3 years ago and just like, we can just cut him if we want to cut him. Rocket Sanders, Raheem Sanders, really good sign on there for the Chargers. Forgot to keep the Chargers logo in there for the time being. Luke Grimm, actually really good receiver from Kansas. He popped off in person. So far, I like 2 out of your 3. I at least know your first 3. Steve-O Klotz from Iowa State. He's not going to do anything, but honestly, I don't mind taking a pot shot at tight end here or there. I do not know the Maryland center, but I do know Nash Jones had some poppy reps at the Shrine Bowl. I ended up going up to him after one of the practices and was like, actually, you had a pretty good day today. And the funniest thing was he looked at me, he's like, really? It was like, it was like a wholesome moment. I liked it right there. But do not know any of the other offensive linemen of note. Looking at the defensive interiors, nothing of note there either. Edge rusher wise, I do like Garmin Randolph. I love the edge core for Baylor. I mean, I don't know why I've just become a Baylor fan. To be fair, I know why. My girlfriend's a Baylor student, so I focus a little bit more on their guys more than maybe some other schools. But he's the one who I would know out of that edge core. Then we got Marlowe Max, linebacker out of Syracuse. Good school that overperformed in terms of its defensive play as well. Eric Rogers, a good cornerback out of Rutgers to bring on as a practice squad guy. Jordan Oladokin was a top 100 to 150 player for me. This is a guy who's awesome, and shout out to Young Money Agency. So he was one of their clients. So shout out to my boy Rodney for that. But he's somebody who I love in the nickel. He played boundary corner, is a little bit athletically limited. I wish he ran a 40, but I understand why he did not. But regardless, Jordan Oladokin is going to be a fantastic pickup for the Chargers. Again, remember, guys, we're talking about the Chargers here. Then you got Nico Reed. Honestly, I like that pickup there as well. Same thing with Jalen Jones. Good to take pot shots at those players. But it looks like Maryland had a lot of guys that were invited or signed in UDFA. Maybe I ended up missing something with those guys. Los Angeles Rams, talk about them. So Jordan Waters, NC State, did not get to see enough of him, but in the normal game film that I got to see of him, he was actually quite fun. So I don't think he'll do much, but maybe it's a Ronnie Rivers situation. Brendan Presley was super duper fun. He's just super small. That's just going to be the big issue. He's like, 5'8" or something, and then like 170, 160. He was super productive for Oklahoma State, but very limited. Same thing with Mario Williams. Like, both these players are very, very good receivers in college. The question is, how much is he going to translate? Do not know enough about the Louisiana Tech kid. Willie Lampkin, obviously the talk of the town during the Senior Bowl, 5'10" center, but he was feisty. He had some really good reps. I would not be surprised to see him on the 53. Trey Wettig as well, right tackle at Indiana. I hope he gets a shot at guard, because I think he was a lot better there. I got to interview Trey when I was over in Dallas. Well, I live in Dallas, but when I was at the Senior Bowl. But Trey Wettig is he's a good guy. Needs to brush his teeth, though. Defensive interior guy, I don't know. Edge rushing core, do not know. Then Sean Deloche, love that pickup right there. Sean Deloche was kind of like he was an underrated favorite of mine going into the process for UDFA, and I'm happy he goes to the Rams, where they need safeties, and I do not know about the Northern Illinois safety. Miami Dolphins. You got AJ Henning. Don't know enough about him. I love Northwestern players, though. My man, Monterey Baldwin, baby. Such a good fit for the Dolphins. A burner, like an absolute burner. I hope this guy sticks to the 53. Bring on top of that the next 3 players. You got Jalen Conyers, incredible value there at Texas Tech. Improved as a blocker noticeably. Great build, good after the catch. Eugene Asante, really solid linebacker out of Auburn too. Surprised he didn't get drafted. And then Brandon Adams, BJ Adams, as I used to call him. Flexible corner safety hybrid, very good. I like your UDFA class more than your draft class comparatively for the value. Really good job there. Vikings, Max Brosmer. I said he has the highest ceiling in the class or highest ceiling of the day 3 quarterbacks in the class. And I'm just going to stick by it. His high-end throws are incredible, but there's a lot of work to be done. Trey Stewart was a really fun running back, ended up popping off in the bowl game as well for Jacksonville State. Continuing down the list, I don't really see much outside. Silas Bolden was a good receiver for Texas. I got to give him his flowers, man. But the other receivers, I don't think deserve very much time of ours. Tight end wise, we got two good ones. Ben Urosek out of Georgia, formerly Stanford, and he just ended up transferring too late and also transferred to the one other school where probably couldn't shine the way he should have. But gadget player who ended up actually like kind of doing some Wildcat stuff. But Bryson Nesbitt, he's a slot tight end. Be fun to see him there. I know the Vikings loved Drake May before. Maybe they fell in love with Bryson Nesbitt as well. Joe Huber and Logan Brown are fantastic UDFA offensive line signings. I do not know enough about the NC State Center. Joe Huber is flexible across the majority of the offensive line. Logan Brown's a freak athlete. I have zero clue why he ended up being UDFA. Like zero clue. He was someone's like 150 on my board, and I thought it was low on him. But he's a freak athlete, could end up kicking into guard as well. Incredible pickup there. You look at the edges, Tyler Beatty, man. I got an interview with him. I don't know why I didn't post it. I can still post it. But Tyler Beatty's a fantastic dude. He's just a little bit older because it's like mission trips and stuff. But, I mean, he was very solid at the Shrine Bowl. I think he can end up making a practice squad at the very, very minimum. Continuing on, the linebacking group, did not see anything of note. Same thing with the cornerback group. Zehemiah Vaughn actually is a solid corner out of Utah. Utah has some good defensive backs, but that is going to be it. New England Patriots. We have quarterback that I have not heard of. Did not get to see him either. But we got Lan Larson. That's such a New England Patriot signing as well. You guys had the best draft, so let's see if like maybe you can add to it here. Efton Chisholm is fantastic. He popped off at the Shrine Bowl. Really love it. He just didn't test out all that well, and he's a very small guy. CJ Dupre as well. Amazing blocking tight end for you guys to have, which is, in my opinion, better than the fullback, Robbie Oots, that ended up going to the Seahawks in the 5th round. So good value there. Boston College offensive linemen as UDFA are always good bets. Continuing down the list, is there anything else? Brandon Crossley actually was on a stock report for the during the playoffs, I believe. So he actually popped off. Potentially could be someone for a practice squad, if not elevation. I did not get to study him personally, but he looked good in person, and he ended up actually getting onto one of the stock report videos, which is hard to do. But continuing on, New Orleans Saints. Marcus Yarns was my lowest graded running back. I want more from him, but I just didn't see it. Easton Kitty's Kilty. I thought it was Kitty for some reason. Might be Kilty. Maybe I'm just dumb. But regardless, the Kansas State offensive lineman, he was on my stock report quite a few times. Maybe not the video, but the video was like whenever I do stock report videos, it's like the best of the guys who I have on my stock report. Just FYI, I literally go through every game and I like write down the guys who I think that did really well. But I love Kansas State offensive lineman. Good job by the Saints there. Amari Thomas is a punchy defensive interior that I think a year ago, if he continued his play, could have been a 4th round pick. Tyreen Powell is an amazing pickup. Amazing. And the reason why is because he has like 34-inch arms or something. He's a super high floor linebacker that I ended up having, like, based on my grades, he was about 170th or something. Like, really solid linebacker. I thought he was definitely a mid-day 3 player and ended up going undrafted. And then after testing what he did with the arm length that he has, I was very, very surprised. Do not know any of your other guys, unfortunately. New York Giants are next. Juice Wells, pairing him back up with his former quarterback and Jackson Dart. I love it. Juice Wells looked really good too. Maybe this is just a health concern more than anything. Bo Collins was my number 2 receiver coming into the year. Super polished route running. Or no, excuse me, not super polished route running. That was actually one of his weaknesses. Super polished release package. In my opinion, still the best from college. Like, it's Jaden Higgins and probably Bo Collins that might be at the top. And then you also have Travis Hunter in there. Like, release package wise, you try to press him, they're flying right by you. But he's a limited athlete, had bad drop issues. That's a problem. And that's why you're not going to get drafted. If you can't catch the ball, you're not very good if you're open. Who gives a shit? like I'd rather have a player who doesn't get open who can catch than somebody who gets open and then drops the easiest passes on planet Earth. But he's a good blocker as well. Super high floor in terms of motor and overall blocking ability. I love it. Really, really good job. And then you have Daquan Felton on top of that. You have 3 not 4 guys, and Nate McCollum that you have that should be going on a practice squad or even sneak onto 53 with elevation. Jaquan Felton tested out really well. He's about 6'4", 225. Like, really fun receiver. Really fun receiver. And then Nate McCollum is a little gadget guy from North Carolina. I liked him more than a lot of the receivers they had there. Feel free to go check out my original like top 50 something receivers in the 2025 NFL draft from summer scouting. Nate McCollum was on there, and I did like him quite a bit. Not to that degree, but still, for UDFA, I did. I do not know the tackle or tight end, neither the edge. The cornerback, Delancey, I think I've heard of RJ before. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Wisconsin defenders, so I'm going to give a shout out whenever I can. Do not know the other 2 defensive backs, however, and neither the minicamp invite. Let's go into the same stadium, but to the Jets. So Brady Cook, love the mobility. It fits hand in glove with what you're trying to do with Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields. Amazing. He has great playmaking ability. Feel free to check out my quarterback video for a little bit more in depth on that. Jonathan Edwards, fantastic. I mean, one of the highest quality dudes that I got to meet. I was talking to Jalen Smith, and Donovan Edwards comes over and is like dapping us up, and he's just such a funny guy. He interrupted some people's interviews in like a funny, like loving way in Mobile. So awesome guy. Did not end up, being the player that we wanted him to be. Like he was like RB7 or something going into last draft, and then ended up returning. And it was like, okay, well, now that Blake Corum ended up leaving, you're going to have a big role. And he didn't. But he has 10-inch hands as well. So like maybe like catching, ball security, that's not going to be too much of an issue in the NFL, but we'll see. Jamal Pritchett was a solid receiver out of South Alabama in Mobile. Did not see too much from him, but I was, he ended up having some nice reps there. The Jordan Clark is a solid slot from Notre Dame. Really solid. He popped off to me. And so that's a really good signing there. Could end up making the 53, in my opinion. Quentin Skinner, didn't see much of him from Kansas, so TBD on that. And Dean Clark, honestly, not a bad defensive back out of Fresno State. So good, like really good group there. Really good group. Philadelphia Eagles, let's talk about their group. Montrell Johnson, he had his moments. A lot of people loved Montrell Johnson, and I love Montrell Johnson as a UDFA. I'm glad because some people thought of him like much higher than this. Do not know Central Arkansas kid. Unbelievable. Holland Pierce, top 120 player on my board. I was so pissed off when y'all brought in Hinton because I'm like, why the hell would you not bring in Holland Pierce? I don't know why they're not. Maybe there's some injury concerns there. But Holland Pierce went through a great weight transformation journey, and like he looks great now. Incredible. Then you look at BJ Mays. BJ Mays is not a bad defensive back at all. Good throw of the dart there because Texas A&M developed some good defensive backs. Then Brandon Johnson, again, the Oregon defensive backs, of course, will be taken. Then Maxon Hook, it's very hard to see him go UDFA. I thought he was going to be a 7th-round pick. He gets the pair back up there with Quinion there. I don't think he'll actually make the team, but Malik Carr as well, a lot of people really liked him. Steelers, let's talk about him. Love Rock Taylor. I mean, just gritty receiver. That's a good Steelers receiver. I definitely think he could end up, if he wants to, sneaking onto the 53. Definitely a practice squad guy. Do not know anything about the tight end nor the guard. Maybe that was the Minnesota Duluth kid that I was hearing about. But Sebastian Castro, he is a top 75 player on my board. He was actually, no, he might have been higher than that. His grade, if you just went for the non-weighted grade, was a top 50 grade. This guy is fantastic. The problem with him is that he's a little bit older, not a great athlete. However, he's still my defensive back 3. I think this guy's fantastic. I mean, he's built to be in our nickel. He is super smart. He is extremely aggressive, and he is just reliable. I have no freaking clue how he ended up falling out of the draft. 0 clue. And he has 10-inch hands, over 10-inch hands. So interceptions, even though he has short arms, if he gets his hand on the ball, there's a better chance than maybe some other guys out there. Incredible. And I mean incredible bring on. Him and Rock Taylor. I'm so happy. And again, I'm live reacting to this, by the way. So we're kind of seeing this together. The Niners. Let's see what they did. Corey Kiner's a fun back out of Cincinnati. He's someone who I really, really liked. Same thing with Isaiah Nair. He's a freak athlete. Really good pickup for the Niners. You look at Drew Moss, take it or leave it. Sebastian Valdez, in my opinion, take it or leave it. Then Jacob Robinson is a really good slot out of BYU. He's physical. I didn't see enough from him, but he was up there with some of the best corners of the country. So again, three really solid signings there with Nair, Kiner, and Robinson. The Seahawks, look at what they did. The first one of note, is there any of them? Zy Alexander, of course. So actually, Jackson Woodard, the linebacker at UNLV, was actually pretty damn solid as well. But also Zy Alexander, someone I could easily see transitioning to safety. That was my dream for him. He just didn't test out very well. I don't think he's a very good corner. He didn't look good at the Shrine Bowl, but I mean, he's built very well. I could easily see him sticking to a 53 if he's willing to make that transition. And then you invite Thor Griffith. I love Thor. What a great name. But Harvard transfer as well. Someone who I have a lot of faith in. Tampa Bay, they get Connor Bazelak. Bazelak's fun. Bowling Green had a great team this year. I'm a sucker for Bowling Green now. And then you got Josh Williams, the running back at LSU, a little bit underwhelming, but still good to take guys like that when you can. Will Shepard, he was 100% a UDFA for me, but worth taking at this point. Good contested catch guy. And then you got Jake Majors as well. Jake Majors is fantastic. Like for a UDFA, he just slipped here because of his arm length, so I'm a huge fan of that. Then you got the meat, Desmond Watson, the wall. He's just a horrible athlete. He's like a god-awful athlete, but it's still a very solid pickup here because you just can't find guys like that. And then you get Shiloh Sanders as well, who, he was right there in that UDFA range for me. It's worth taking on there. He's obviously got a fire lit under his ass. It's good to have a Sanders name in the building. That is, in my opinion, I thought he was a little bit less of a hothead than people like to give him credit for. I think he was actually he seemed fine. But Shiloh's play dropped quite a bit over this year. But continuing on, do not know any of the minicamp invites either. Actually, no, I do know Jordan McLeod. So shout out to my boy Craig LeBlanc, Live 2 Craig. He ended up actually being the quarterback coach for Jordan McLeod, the Texas State quarterback. That's a minicamp invite at the bottom of your screen. I love Craig. Great guy, like someone who works with a ton of people. Jordan McLeod didn't have the bowl game that he wanted to at the Serve Pro, but he had some good flashy plays. I'm very happy I did not end up missing that. Tennessee Titans, Xavier Restrepo, man. He was a top 110 player for me. I don't give a shit if you're 40's ass because you look at the speed of every other route. And I believe James Foster, shout out to my boy, he ended up posting this. But you look at the speed, the route running speed on every other route. It's like 90th or 80th percentile and above. And it's just like second percentile on vertical. I have no idea why he can't run in a straight line. But I don't give a crap because you're probably going to play slot and you're not going to be someone who I'd put out there to run streaks. Every other play, he is going to do a damn good job. And on top of that, you pair him back up with Cam Ward. I am flabbergasted that he ended up being undrafted. A 40 time did that to him. He literally broke the record at Miami. And he is a good player. Unfortunately, a player who I don't think is good is Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon. I really wanted to like him. He's a good project player, but man, he looked bad at the Shrine Bowl. Like, he was the worst player there, in my opinion. And I hate saying that because I really wanted him to be better, but he just was not good. David Gabenda. You might be like, who the hell is that? He is freaking good. I like David Gabenda a lot. He ended up lurking. I believe it might have been Will Howard. I think he lurked him when they played against each other. Like, he is really underrated as a linebacker. I would not be surprised to see him on a 53 at all. Continuing on, though, nothing else of note. So let's continue on. But, two really, really good names there with Strepo and Gabenda, in my opinion. Then you got the Commanders here. Timothy McKay, solid NC State guard. He popped off at the Shrine Bowl. Ricky Barber's a solid interior defensive lineman from UCF. Fentrell Cypress, he is a very experienced University of Virginia and Florida State corner. Kind of surprised he didn't get drafted. To me, he was a little bit there in like round 7 territory. But then you got Trey Rucker as well, who's a fun safety out of Oklahoma State. Had some moments there at the Senior Bowl for sure. But overall, a little bit underwhelming, but still some good value there for the Commanders. And that's going to be it. Thank you so much for joining me on this whole experience. Of course, we're going to be reviewing your draft classes, UDFA classes with some amazing content creators. I'm super excited for that. Thank you for joining and being awesome the way you are and supporting me the way you do. See you later. Peace.